PhD or Dutch passport?
I have to think about American passport because that's what my family is.
So you're cool with Shatta Wale now?
Sort of. I mean, and I've followed him on Twitter. He's even sent me money sometimes. I was like, Charlie, send me money, and he sent me more.
Wow.
So I think we are cool. Know what you want to do, and you should be passionate about it. Have that ability to tell stories or learn to communicate. Even if you're communicating in Pidgin, in Chi, I make sure I'm very accessible. I've pretty much met and seen almost all my icons. Using my name as a brand has guided me, because if I am not there telling the story, then I'm not touching it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Jama. I'm Maria, your host, and this is
Janiacs. And today, who do we have?
we have my favorite, AMEYAW Debrah. AMEYAW, welcome.
Thank you for
We are
having me.
so excited to have you
Yes.
today.
Pleasure.
For the little people that don't know you, can you introduce yourself for us?
I am a young man who likes to mind his business, but I find myself doing a job that is quite public. And so every now and then we talk about people, experiences that we've gone through. So I'm something I like to call a blogger, and also I've become a social media influencer based on the kind of audience and following I've grown over the period and how I interact with brands and with people.
Okay, so how many social media platforms do you have?
Charlie, I'm pretty much everywhere. I mean, my thing has always been that when I hear something is new, is growing, I try to get in and then grow with it, because it does take time to evolve and grow on these platforms. So I go in early, and then it gives me enough time to be relevant in that space. So you find me on Twitter, you find me on Facebook, you find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere. Not too long ago, I looked at my analytics behind my Pinterest.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
it was so great. I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
Pinterest.
Pinterest
I have
is actually
Pinterest.
doing well.
So what I've done is,
What do you
what
post
I've
on
done
Pinterest?
is I've automated it, so most of the time the pictures from my website
Yeah, would just...
will generate there.
Oh,
And so
okay.
one day I was doing something random. I went, and every month the number of
Oh my
engagement
God.
there, I'm like, I never
Wow.
thought about it.
Wow. Who knew?
So how do you differentiate like content you post on different platforms? Do you just post the same thing all over, or?
So most of the time it becomes generic, but there are some times that we do different formats. Even if it's the same content, maybe we would do it in a portrait format just so that it fits a specific social media platform. I've realized that as much as we kind of study and think that this would work on this platform or not, sometimes you just don't know. So what I do is I put them across and then see how they perform on those platforms. And most of the time I'm surprised. Sometimes I'm expecting something to do well on Instagram, and then it flops.
Tell me about it.
I put it somewhere else.
Tell
and
me
then-
about
And then
it.
it's doing well. So I try, especially when I'm doing something for a brand or working for somebody, I try to put it everywhere so that if it doesn't work well on one platform, at least on the other one, they're
Yeah.
getting some leverage out of it. So I try to be everywhere.
So I saw that you started as a journalist. How did you end up being a blogger?
Well, I think I'm somebody who I've been taking every opportunity that comes my way. Even with journalism, I got into it by chance. I mean, when I was going to the university, the opportunity came for me to go a year ahead of my time.
Wow.
And so I just said, let me try this course. And then they accepted me. So I went in and I did it. I won the best publishing student. So that gave me the opportunity to do my national service with a magazine. And so after school, I did with national service. And that's how I was introduced to journalism, because I was interviewing, writing, editing for the magazine, Innovation Magazine. And so just around that time, I found a way to plug what I was doing into the online space. Back then, most people just know about Facebook and all of those, but there was something called High Five. High Five
Oh my
was like the father of everything.
Don't say MSN too. And MySpace.
All of them.
my God.
MySpace, I was everywhere.
Oh
In
my
fact, a lot of
God.
the musicians who are popular now that I got in touch with and interviewed in the beginning, most of them I got through
MySpace, of course.
And so
Wow.
someone like
Jesus.
One Love, he wasn't even in Ghana, but I connected with him through MySpace. And so I was just plugging into
I
all
think now
these
everybody
places.
knows our age.
Yeah, I know, right?
I cannot relate.
Jenny is too young for this.
She's too young. Yeah, Gen Z. Yeah, so pretty much that's how the journalism bit started. It's been an interesting journey since.
So the transition was smooth for you?
It was smooth. I mean, I didn't overthink it. It was more like just go with the flow, and then at every stage something new was coming and we were evolving and growing.
How many bloggers were back then, or were you the first?
There weren't that many. I think technically I came out and said I was a blogger, and so I had also worked with a company in Netherlands called Voices of Africa. So what they were doing was they were giving Nokia phones to journalists across Africa, and then we use this phone to film and edit on the phone, and then we upload to a server, and then they turn it into news on africanews.com. And it was crazy because it was very new. I remember going to Parliament, and Parliament, they are used to people with big cameras and all of that, and I come and I'm pointing this small phone on. People didn't take me serious. Only few politicians even granted me an
I just
interview.
picture this right now.
It was funny. And I still remember because I think it was Haruna Idrisu and then Mona. They presented themselves and it was easy for them to be interviewed on the phone. The rest of them, they wouldn't even look at you.
Oh my God.
And so that was all part of the journeys.
I saw one of the videos on your YouTube. It was titled, "My passion for AMEYAW TV almost ruined my family."
We exaggerated that a little bit.
I was like, what? We won the team.
there?
So, I mean, I think for a very long time, I'd been doing everything by myself. And then, in addition to doing my own thing, I went to launch Pulse and then left to also go and launch and manage yen.com. And I realized from these platforms that they saw into the future and realized that video content was going to be the next step. So when I left, I was like, maybe all these people are European companies, so they know the data, they know what's coming. So let me also set up, have a video sort of channel and production setup. And then just when that vision came, that dream came, and I was starting, that was when I was also getting married. And so I launched AMEYAW TV, I think just about a month before the wedding.
Oh, wow.
And it was expenses. You are doing camera, you are buying equipment, you are paying people, you are planning the wedding. So it sort of all came together and it was crashing. Everything, money
What
was
did your wife say? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think she supported it as she's always supported.
That's good.
But I think at a point it became frustrating, especially
Like, okay, let's get married now.
Let's do it. So it was like money was going and money was not coming. Immediately the project also didn't start making money.
Yeah.
And I think you had a problem with AdSense too.
Yes.
The minute you decided to leave Ghana Web.
Ghana Web, yeah, that was one of the bitter experiences because the funny thing is the owner of Ghana Web had not been to Ghana before. So 1 year he comes to Ghana and he listened to radio, some party here, media partner, AMEYAW.com, and he was like, is it the same AMEYAW Debrah that is doing my website? And he didn't think my platform was growing that much.
Yeah.
So when he came down and he saw that I work with him and I'm now like competition again, he started raising issues of conflict of interest and all of that. So he gave me options. Either they buy me into Ghana Web, so it becomes AMEYAW.Ghana Web, or I leave entirely. And it was difficult to leave because when I started, even though the buzz everybody was reading and sharing, it wasn't generating money that much.
Yeah.
And Ghana Web is the biggest still.
It's still the biggest. And so we're now here to have some issues. So, but...
What issues?
Technically, I think there are two Ghana Webs now. There's a .live and then there's the .com.
Oh, wow.
Different ownership also. So, I mean, they're going through a phase. But when I decided that I'm leaving Ghana Web to follow the dream and build something out of it, just about a week into resigning, then AdSense, I get an email from them.
That must have...
It broke me down.
Yeah.
And back then, there was just no consideration for digital. Everybody was more mainstream.
Paper,
traditional
media.
mainstream platforms that they were considering. So gradually, people started coming along, started having deals with specific brands, and then it started evolving.
Having Ghana Web to buy you basically is a huge opportunity.
Yes.
How
did I resist
yes.
that? No, I think it was that thrill of doing something of your own, something that you loved, and you saw potential. And also the ability to be your own boss, learn, make mistakes, be able to change along the way. It was promising. So I was like, I've seen the promise. Let me be strong and believe and work. And God being so good, Jenny has only
paid off.
It's paid off.
So throughout your career, you've been really impactful on social media to the extent where like international brands are reaching out, like Pulse. So how did you manage that with AMEYAW TV?
With AMEYAW TV, we started it off the ground. It was an idea. I had a YouTube channel. It was one of the earliest that came. So back then we couldn't monetize, and then now the partners came. And funny enough, the first person who partnered me to monetize my YouTube found Christ, and so now was only working with content that were Christian oriented. So we had to disable that monetization, and then eventually it became easy for us to monetize on our own. And then again we had another infringement thing. So YouTube culture, my mind was tuned off. Now I had to come and build something from scratch, and AMEYAW TV was there. The strategy was to bring in new faces, young people, let them connect. Even we did auditions so that these people are coming because people want to see them. People voted for them. And I thought that was the initial thing that I would need to start something. But it wasn't quite easy.
When are you holding auditions again?
Well, I'm having plans because now my star girl has grown and left to a different company. And so now we pretty much don't have presenters. And as part of the new formats, I'm thinking about reintroducing new faces and new styles. So I'm sure I'll put out a call for auditions very soon.
We will be there.
So how were you able to handle the Pulse Ghana thing?
Yeah, because you opened Pulse.
Yes, I opened Pulse.
Yen, right?
And Yen. But the good thing this time was I made them understand that I would compete with them.
Oh, wow.
They knew from the beginning that...
And they still went with you.
And they still went with it. With Pulse, they went with it in the beginning, and then later it was like, they wanted more. It became a bit confusing because when we were starting, the idea was it was going to be like a soft sell, but then they wanted to do the hard news and compete with all those established things. And I'm like, that's not what we wanted to do, and that's not even what I'm built for. And so, fortunately or unfortunately, just before I was leaving, an email came from those who were bringing in they were based in Ukraine. And so I showed interest, and then again I started hiring people, and then we launched that one, and I did over 2 years with Yen before eventually leaving to start the AMEYAW TV.
So what are the steps to becoming a successful blogger?
But for me, I say you should know what you want to do, and you should be passionate about it, because that's what will drive the success or the failure, because it's not easy. Now, people make it look easy because you can start an Instagram and before you know it's popular, and so it feels easy. But when you go and you realize that it might not be that easy. So know what you want to do and have the passion to push it till it becomes what you want it to become. Be able to communicate, even if you're communicating in Pidgin, in Chi, or you're creating video. Have that ability to tell stories, or learn to be able to tell stories to engage the audience that you have, because that's what will sustain the audience. It depends on the style of whatever blogging you are doing, if you're putting yourself in it or it's just something very general. But I feel when you have these tools, they help you to and guide you along.
So how do you position yourself as a blogger to attract like international brands?
I think it's a miracle. And because
Really?
I don't have a marketing department or team, and we are out there pitching. So what I do is I make sure I'm very accessible. And so my numbers, my emails are there. So once I connect with somebody and they see me and they want to engage with me, it's easy for the person to reach out to me. And also I've joined, especially when it comes to influencing and all, I've also joined a number of platforms where brands sometimes go to them and then they look around and bring it to you. So I realized that also helps with the international gigs. But the difficulty there is because Africa or Ghana is quite a separate market, it's difficult to consistently get those kinds of gigs coming through. But every now and then we get something. I do network, in terms of meeting people, going to events. I'm a shy person, so then again, I go to all these great events, and most of the time...
I know, I followed you. I had to follow him on Europe Day to get him here.
Shy.
I'm always sticking to the people I know. If nobody is there, then I'm just lost and hiding in my corner.
I would have never expected you are an introvert. Really.
I am, but I open up to people once I get to...
Selective
when
introvert.
I must be sure a little bit. I'm a bit careful. But once I open up, I open up fully. So you get to enjoy my presence. Yeah.
So what's the most biggest and viral content you've ever posted?
Viral content. Well, I mean, these ones are on different levels because sometimes you are posting something that somebody has already done and you are sharing. So that doesn't give me the same satisfaction as something that we have created from scratch organically and it's connected. I mean, there are a number of them, but I'll probably try and do the recent one that maybe like Dutch passport versus
oh my God, the
PhD thing. I think I came in, I did my own very subtle one, addressing issues and not addressing issues, but I'm like, whatever be the case, I don't have a PhD, I don't have a Dutch passport, but here I am. I'm able to travel, I'm able to do what I'm doing without either of that. So it's really up to you what opportunities come your way and how you're able to exploit it. And different reactions. I mean, and it's interesting because the reactions you get from Twitter is quite different from the reactions
all
you
the
get
platforms
on Instagram.
are different.
Facebook was the one that gave me the most stress because opinions that you don't expect, things people are saying, and sometimes I get so frustrated. What I said, what you're saying, there's no parallel.
But do you really have time to go through comments like that?
Sometimes I do, especially when I don't have anything doing, and also when maybe I pick up the phone and there's a notification and then I see a bit of it, I'm like, let me react to this. If not, generally, sometimes the comments are just too much. And so you wouldn't even know what to respond to. But every now and then I do.
So what do you choose, PhD or Dutch passport?
I'm thinking about it. I have to think about American passport because that's where my family is. So inwardly, we are looking more, how do I do that transition? Because after Dutch, they can be, they can take their passport.
So can you tell us the biggest concert trending right now?
I think in the week, some of the things that have come up will be the VGMA, TGMA thing. I think Stoneboy, whether he has a beef with Kim Promise or not. And also, even just yesterday, there was an event and some of the media people were speculating who could have broken the heart of Camido.
Oh my God.
What happened?
I pretended I knew and I dropped some names and they believed it. So I cannot drop it here. So yes, these are some of the two things that are buzzing at the moment.
But do you think the Stoneboy and Kim Promise thing, there's something there?
Well, it could be because you hear things. For instance, I go to the awards and people are like, did Stoneboy's team call? Because I had also stated that I wanted Kim Promise to win because I think he's had a very good year.
He has never won. Personally, I was rooting for him.
He has never won. That's one my because then if you have to pick, something must lead you to want you to pick one over the other. And for me, I was like, Stoneboy had won before. Yeah,
they should have given it to him. He did well.
It's not like Kim Promise didn't work. So that's what I put out there. So I'm there and they asked, did Stoneboy's team call you? I'm like, no.
For what?
Why are they calling people? And they're like, yes, everybody who showed preference for Kim Promise, they will call you and like, so why are you saying? I'm like, maybe they know me. I don't take sides. I just do it as I feel. So nobody had reason to call me. So if that really happened, then it means it was that intense. But I mean, for me, I've always wanted to not look at those competitiveness in terms of clashes, but it should be in the work. Let us enjoy the music you're doing, that rather than having your personalities clash and your fans also, because we've seen things happen in the past, and sometimes you don't even know if it's all fun and games or people are taking it seriously until you hear or see things happen, and you don't want that to happen. I think both of them are very talented people, and they should allow the talent and the music to be what that connects and become talked about. And so I'm hoping that there is no beef, serious beef, but yes, let's see what the next news will be on that.
Let's see. One of the stories that I read on your Instagram, and I laughed so much, oh my God, it was when you met Burna Boy. Can you please tell that story?
So funny enough, I told that story again last night.
Wow.
So what happened was we were at the MTV Awards. We finished. It was time for me to leave the hotel and go to the airport. So I had packed and I was leaving. And so Bernard had come to my floor. And so I meet him in the elevator. And then he was smoking. So as we were inside, the lift opened. So for me, I thought somebody else is coming in and I didn't want them to see he's smoking. So I'm like, oh, let me hold it for you. And he was like, my bruh, this is the last one I have. I cannot share with you. And then when the lift opens fully, I realized that was his stop. He was even getting out.
My goodness.
So he goes out with his last joint. And I'm like, I laughed and laughed and laughed in my head. So
That was so funny.
It was so funny. It was so funny.
Did you interact with him ever again? Or
No. I'm sure he wouldn't even remember me until the time I posted it and I realized some of the Nigerian blogs and news outlets, they took it and posted it as well.
Oh my God, I was laughing so much with this one. And who is the most famous person you have met throughout your career? Or like, give us 5 names.
I've met a lot of them.
Please.
My highlights are meeting them in person, interviewing them, or watching them on stage.
Yeah.
And when I look at that, I've pretty much met and seen almost all my icons. I think the only ones I haven't seen will be R. Kelly, maybe Celine Dion, and of course Whitney as well. I've seen Beyonce.
You have met Beyonce?
Yeah, we didn't meet. I just saw him on stage in South Africa first time.
Yeah.
She was here too, no? They were saying.
They were hiding.
You will tell us the truth.
But is it true?
Well,
Your mom was here.
Even before that, she had come with Jay-Z.
Really?
When Jay-Z came to perform.
And the kids?
And then, but Jay-Z only made the appearances and she didn't. So I was in Cannes and then she had come there also, and again she was hiding all the time. I don't know why she does that. So these are some of my highlights.
Rihanna, I think you've met Rihanna.
I haven't met Rihanna yet. Yeah, I haven't met Rihanna. I haven't seen her perform yet. Was she has a BET that time I went? No, I don't think she was. I haven't seen Rihanna yet. So clearly I'm not sure I'll meet. We all know where he is now.
Let's not
go there.
Push our luck.
And so maybe Celine Dion.
I was about to ask if you go to the
now, I mean, I've given up on that dream ever happening. But pretty much I've seen. Even those I don't want to see, I've seen them. So,
Is there an international personality that you would be like, oh, I really want to interview this person. They seem so interesting.
Oh, yes, quite a few. I mean, Beyonce, I still would want to interview.
Me too.
I would like to meet. Yeah. And I tried, especially when the African album came out during the Lion King thing, but it wasn't as successful. Now I see a lot of Ghanaians, Africans in diaspora doing amazing, and I would like to interview. When I go to the US, I would try and meet some of them. There's this Nigerian, I think his handle is Billionaire Chef. I've forgotten his real name. He's also doing really good, cool things in that space, putting our food out there. I think I would love to interview him. All the big stars, maybe Rihanna, since she's denying her fans of an album.
No, she said she would bring out. She would in 1 year.
In 1 year now. So Maybe when the album is out, we can sit down and talk about it. That would be nice. I'd love to see them opened up to the continent. I mean, recently Pharrell did well by that invitation they sent around for the Louis Vuitton showcase, and even the fact that they opened the show with a lot of African, I wouldn't say black, but African models. It's interesting. So I think the space is opening up. People are looking to us as much as we are looking to them, and so I just really want to see how that turns out and create content around that also.
But over the years, I think you have developed it to a point where some of your trips are paid or sponsored. How can somebody achieve that?
Yeah, I think it's the visibility and the value you create for people to want to associate themselves with you. And I think before this, we were talking about that. It's not always about the numbers. It's about what you're creating, and even sometimes the quality of people who are following you and engaging with that. Because social media is such a way that sometimes somebody will see somebody they know has left a comment somewhere, and then it comes to them and they see. So, and I sometimes also, for instance, the last time I went to the World Cup in Qatar, the moment I knew it was coming, I tweeted at Qatar Airways and said, I must experience this. And then they DM'd me and said, write to the media team. They gave me an email.
Wow.
And then said, send them a proposal. I sent this proposal. They never replied. And then when the World Cup started, I get an email from their local representative, reps that the people said they want you. They specifically said we should bring you. And I'm like,
wow.
So
you should be brave then. Like
Once you want to, and then once you do the demand, when you do the request, I'm sure they will evaluate. So it must tie it into what you're asking for, and then they know that they can work with you. So sometimes that's how it happens.
So, for example, with Qatar Airways, you didn't follow up. So basically, you sent the proposal.
I sent the proposal, and I didn't get a reply. And then I went back to them on Twitter and said, I've sent it, but I've not had any reply.
Oh, wow.
And then nothing happened. And then months later, they're calling.
Wow. Because it's always something that a lot of people wonder, how much follow-up is a lot.
Exactly, because then you don't also want to
be all
over the face. You have to, because sometimes I also put myself
in their shoes. Yeah.
Every night I get requests from people also, but I get pulled away when it becomes a certain way. So I relate to people the way I want them to relate with me. So I always put myself in these relationships and see.
Okay, and one of the things that also I have a big question is, you are using your name as your brand.
As a brand.
And I'm pretty sure this is a double.
Yeah, good and bad.
Yes. How did you come to this decision, AMEYAW TV?
So, I mean, it started as a joke, really, because I was contributing to one of my friends who owns ghanacelebrities. Every night I'll do content, they pick it up, something like I give them specific ones. So at a point, he was like, why don't you just create your own too?
Yeah.
Because I was using Blogspot back then. And then jokingly, I was like, let's do AMEYAWDEBRAH.com. And we did it.
Yeah. And that was it.
And in the beginning, it was difficult because if you were telling somebody to go to AMEYAWDEBRAH.com, they might not even spell it right.
Yeah.
But I was using social media to...
But now everybody knows your name.
Now they do. So in the beginning, it was a little bit... not so sure, but then also it made it stand out because out of all the platforms, this is a name, this is a person they could relate to.
Yeah.
And so I've been very careful because everything that comes out, even now that I have a team working, once it goes out, the assumption is AMEYAH has said it.
Yeah.
So it held me back. That's why I didn't open up for people to come in for the longest period until I started with AMEYAW TV. And AMEYAW TV became easy because at that time, everybody had known the AMEYAW DEBRAH brand, but calling AMEYAW DEBRAH TV was just too much. So I was like, let's just start with the first name and let's call it AMEYAW TV.
Yeah.
And we're struggling, but we are still making it.
Which stories do well in your channels?
That's the amazing thing. The thing is, sometimes I think the gossip would do, but sometimes they flop. And sometimes it's the human interest stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a young Ghanaian who has achieved a degree somewhere. People just love those kinds of stories. Surprising at the time, I was even focusing on weddings because people liked weddings also,
Wow.
regardless of whether they knew the person or not. Once it was beautiful and something emotional had come out
They
from
want
there.
to see the love.
The love, we love
The
love. So people also like that. And then sometimes the hot gossip. I mean, if you have an exclusive and everybody wants to, then.
But AMEYAW, you haven't told us anything. Any hot gossip, nothing.
I told you a while ago.
Say the
You want-
name.
you want more?
It's not too hot.
You know, when we post this video online, I'll come and leave the name.
Hey.
By that time, the hotness would have gone down. But I'll come and leave the name in the
Oh
comments.
my God. And what about fake news?
Fake news.
There are a lot of fake news.
Yeah,
There are a lot
yeah.
of people that are starting now. They're opening a website and they're just
Putting
You know,
anything there.
creating
Yeah,
fake
I mean, that's why, again, using my name as a brand has guided me, because if I am not there telling the story, then I'm not touching it. But if I'm not there and a source that I trust is telling the story, I take it from that trusted source. And so we hardly will fall victim to false news. And even if we do, we have a quick way of because I've told them we should source from the credible people. It's when they goof, then we also goof. But it doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
And sometimes you are not even able to tell that this is fake. And then sometimes you can clearly tell.
Yeah, right.
And so I tried to bring the team up to speed on how to check and do some sort of fact checking. Look for extra sources, because some things, if it's true, most likely other people would have it.
Yeah.
I mean, if a Ghanaian website is telling me Michael Jackson is still alive, why should I believe them when I know that other people are there that will have the better information? So we try, but every now and then, and even now, technology is making it even more difficult to sometimes tell what is real.
oh my God, yeah.
From
And the
what-
deep fakes.
The deep fake. So it's people go to extent to let people believe, and it's sometimes become difficult to crack.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are working in a space where increasingly all of these things are challenges. And for me, I take it seriously, because if it affects the whole ecosystem and people now don't believe in us, then
Yeah.
what becomes of us?
Yeah.
So we take it quite seriously
Of course,
at
yeah.
our place.
But I think that technology also hinders sometimes, like AI. There are some deep fakes out there that you're like, is this real? Did he actually say
Say
that?
that? Yeah.
Have you ever had a moment like that?
No, not personally, but I mean, I've seen videos maybe of Biden where they search what was
Yes.
original and what was fake, and you can't tell
The
Crazy.
the
difference.
difference. You would have believed it
But
if
in
you saw
Ghana,
it.
we haven't.
It hasn't
had-
started, but we are going to politics season. So we are. I'm expecting that this will be the period that we will see a lot of that coming up, because here most of the time politics lead those kinds of things before it goes into the other sectors. So it's looking interesting.
It's
I
real.
mean, there was a video I think of Nana Cheddar
Yes.
of the where he was forced to say something and he brought the 2 videos. So
yeah.
apart from that, I haven't seen so much of it, but I'm expecting that it will go up.
It's true. And the last question is, what's your advice for people that want to become bloggers like you and they aspire to be like you?
Well, my advice would be that you look inward and see what you're passionate about and what you want to do. Don't do it because you've seen me do what I do. Maybe what I do is because I have the passion for it. And so the way I do it, force on that. And I want people to be creative, look outside, within and outside, and see what uniquely they can also contribute in the space, because you realize that everybody is perhaps doing entertainment stuff, gossip stuff, because it becomes choked. But come up with new, fresh things. People are now doing travel. We talked about the tech people. There are so many options. Environment that you can be a leader in, a pioneer, and grow those sort of types of blogs. And so people should look outside and not just do what is popular. And don't do what is popular because you think it's popular and you want to live the lifestyle that person. That's a wrong thing a wrong way to start in the first place.
Yeah.
So look within what you're passionate about, be creative, because now creativity is what is leading it. And understand that it takes time to build, be patient, and try and error. If you start and it's not working, try new things. Before you know, the new thing you're doing is probably the one that is going to connect. So do it with an open mind and do it with your whole heart. Yeah.
And the last one. What's your advice to us?
To you guys, I mean, keep being awesome. I mean, I've watched some of the episodes in snippets here and there, and so I mean, the focus is fresh. It's exciting. We need to tell stories of people excelling in different spaces and using social. I mean, I keep saying that this technology era is the one that we Africans are sort of on a level field with everybody else. The Americans are using Twitter, so are we. So it's a time that we can compete. We can be seen on a global stage with everybody else. And so it's important to highlight people doing it, to inspire people to do it, and also teach people how they can also do it. So keep doing it.
I have a question. Have you ever been dragged by a celebrity over something you've posted about them before?
Oh, yes, it happens. And I mean, sometimes it's people don't understand. And for me, so far as what I've said is not false, I think you shouldn't have an issue with it. The fact that I'm your friend, yes, or maybe I decide not to do it, but you should understand. Just as you're an actress and you can play any role and doesn't define you. When my job is to talk about what's happening and something has happened and I talk about it, it's the job, it's not who I am. So you should also understand it. So we go through most of them, and sometimes some people are just difficult, and like I said, I don't like trouble. So in that case, I'll just block, like I'll tune you off. You don't matter to me, and then so that you don't stress me, because I didn't come there with a bad mind, and I don't want that energy to.
You're just reporting.
I don't want that energy to hold me back, and now it affects how I relate with you. So I just let it go and tune off. It happens, but we try not to let it happen as much as often. And like again, I have a relationship with people, so sometimes they may go off because they didn't even read to understand what you're doing. It's somebody's spin on it that they've seen, and so you talk to the person because I have access to them. They call or WhatsApp, and then we will have that understand that this is what it is. In fact, if you go and read it, you understand this is what we are saying. And,
What's the most difficult interaction like that you had, if you can say a name?
The most difficult, well, I think it's been quite public. Me and shatta wale.
Oh, wow.
I think a lot of people thought there was hatred and none of that, but it wasn't. It happened because we reported something that had happened, and then he thought at that time there was a heat between him and Samini, so he felt I was supporting Samini, and so Christmas time I'm chilling, you call and say, hey, blah, 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 blah. If you value your life, don't write about me. I'm like, I value my life, I will not write about you, and it was easy to do. So then that's it.
So you didn't write about him again?
Oh, for almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
In fact, the year he won the Artist of the Year, Sarkodie won more awards on the night. So my headline was about Sarkodie topping the Ghana Music Awards.
My God.
You say I shouldn't write about you, so I'll find ways not to write about you. So that's it. But I think now he understands me, or because for me, like I said, it's not personal. And so I don't hold any of those things. It happens, it's water under the bridge, I move on to the next thing. Because again, with where I am, those things don't make me money. So I wouldn't want it to detract from what really is the bread and butter matter for me.
Yeah.
So it's easy to let those things go.
So you're cool with Shatta Wale now?
Sort of. I mean, and I've followed him on Twitter. So every now and then, he's even sent me money sometimes. I was like, Charlie, send me money, and he sent me more.
Wow.
So I think we are cool. Until there's another episode. You never know with Shatta Wale. You never know with Shatta Wale. You can have another episode anytime. So, yeah.
Okay, guys, we've come to the end of today's episode. Please like, subscribe, and share. I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.